I was 32 when my father sent me the text that would destroy everything he'd built on my back. The kitchen light above me flickered twice, like the universe itself flinched. My phone screen glowed cold and bright in the dim room. 7 words. I disown you. Talk to my lawyer. No context, no explanation. Just exile, delivered with the emotional warmth of a bank notice. My finger hovered over the screen. Part of me wanted to call him, to beg for clarity, to ask what I'd done wrong this time. But something deeper held me still. A quiet voice I'd been silencing for years, finally breaking through. I typed one word back. Okay. Not please don't, not why, just okay. A period at the end of a sentence I'd been writing my entire life. I set the phone down gently, like placing flowers on a grave, and opened my laptop. The decision that followed wasn't loud or dramatic. It was surgical. Growing up in Glendale, our kitchen always smelled like burnt coffee and unspoken resentment. My father, Harold, moved through that house like a general inspecting troops. Everything controlled, calibrated, calculated. Lights stayed dim. Voices stayed low. Emotions stayed buried. My stepmother, Marilyn, kept the surfaces spotless, while tension simmered underneath like water about to boil. And Evan, my older brother, walked through every room like he'd inherited a kingdom he never had to earn. I learned early how to fold myself smaller, how to apologize for space I didn't take, how to become invisible when the air got heavy. People talk about birth order like it's destiny written in stone. But in my family, it wasn't about who came first. It was about roles we were assigned before we could protest. Evan was the golden child, the proof Harold's parenting worked. I was the scapegoat, the shock absorber, the emotional janitor who cleaned up everyone else's mess. When Evan failed, I fixed it. When bills went unpaid, I covered them. When Harold's voice rose, somehow it was always aimed at me. College felt like escape at first. 400 miles between us, a fresh start, a chance to breathe. But distance didn't free me. It just changed my function. I became the daughter who wired money home, the responsible one, the emergency fund, with a heartbeat. Every month, a new crisis. Every crisis, my credit card. 4 years ago, Harold called me crying. Actually crying. In 3 decades, I'd never heard his voice crack like that. The house was days from foreclosure, he said. Evan had let him down, though he never explained how. Marilyn was sick with worry. And I was his last hope, the only child he could truly count on. Those words wrapped around my throat like a noose made of guilt. I agreed to help. Just temporarily, he promised. Just until they got back on their feet. I started covering the mortgage payment every month, then utilities, then the small emergencies that somehow only appeared on payday. I rationalized every dollar as the price of peace, the cost of being loved. The irony burned. I was an auditor, someone who balanced other people's books with perfect precision. But I couldn't seem to balance my own family. Holiday dinners became performances. Smiles stretched too wide. Questions landed too pointed. Praise flowed only toward Evan, his new job, his new car, his effortless charm. Marilyn would gush about his accomplishments, then turn to me with a soft, pitying smile. Bonnie just likes working quietly, nothing flashy. As if competence was something to apologize for. But the week before the text, something shifted. Harold's voice took on a sharper edge. Evan avoided my eyes. Marilyn jumped at every phone notification like she was dodging bullets. The air felt charged, like static before lightning. Then Uncle Robert sent me a video. No warning, no explanation. Just a link glowing on my screen at 9 p.m. on a Tuesday. The thumbnail showed my family crowded around that old dining table in Glendale. The worn oak surface, the chipped corner where Evan carved his initials when he was 12. My chest tightened before I even pressed play. The camera shook slightly. Robert must have been holding his phone casually, recording without care. The overhead chandelier cast harsh white light across their faces. They looked relaxed, happy, comfortable in the way people are when they believe they're safe among their own. I hit play. Harold's voice came first, low and gravelly and dripping with satisfaction. She's not a daughter. She's a walking ATM. The room exploded with laughter. Real laughter, the kind that fills a home when people share a private joke. I felt my lungs constrict. Marilyn leaned forward, shaking her head like she was pretending to scold him. But her smile stretched ear to ear. "Harold, stop," she said through giggles. "That girl works too hard for her own good. Let her feel useful." Evan's voice cut through next, casual and bored. "Honestly, Dad, she's pathetic. You should hear how she talks at work, always trying to justify why she sends you money. It's embarrassing." Another wave of laughter. Someone snorted. My stomach twisted into knots. Harold raised his beer toward the camera like he was toasting the person filming. "To my personal ATM," he said. "Long may she pay." Glasses clinked. Someone whistled. Someone else said, "Cheers." My hand went numb. The phone nearly slipped from my grip. It wasn't just the words. It was the ease, the comfort, the absolute certainty that I would never hear this, because in their minds, I was too desperate for belonging to ever walk away. I hit pause. The apartment around me felt colder, like all the heat had been sucked through the walls. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel sad. I felt awake. I replayed it. This time, I watched their faces, the relaxed postures, the careless cruelty, the complete absence of guilt. This wasn't a moment of weakness. It was a pattern, a system, a worldview that had existed long before I realized it. I set my phone down and stepped onto my balcony. Denver's fall air bit into my skin, sharp and clean. The city lights flickered below like distant warnings. I leaned against the railing, metal freezing beneath my palms, and let the truth settle into my bones. Everything suddenly made sense. The strange tone Harold had taken recently, the guilt-laced comments from Marilyn, the way Evan kept inventing new emergencies I had to fund. They weren't struggling. They weren't grateful. They weren't trying. They were planning. And the worst part? They felt entitled to it. I walked back inside, grabbed my phone, and hit play one more time. I needed the sting, the anger, the clarity. Halfway through the video, my phone buzzed with a new text. "Harold, I disown you. Talk to my lawyer." My chest tightened, not from pain this time, but recognition. This wasn't punishment. They thought I was about to confront them. They thought they were cutting me off before I could disrupt their system. They thought they were in control. I stared at the text for a long moment. Then I typed the word that changed everything. Okay. Not yes, not why, just okay. A full stop, a closing door, a promise. Because in that moment, standing alone in my apartment, watching the people I grew up with toast to my humiliation, I realized something I'd never allowed myself to see. I wasn't part of their family. I was part of their budget. The strange thing about betrayal is how quiet the aftermath feels. No screaming, no dramatic collapse. Just a silence so clean, it almost echoes. That silence filled my apartment the night I typed, "Okay." A silence I'd never experienced growing up. Because in my childhood home, silence was a weapon, a punishment, a way to force submission. But here, in my own space, it felt like control. I placed my phone face down and opened my laptop. If Harold wanted everything through lawyers, I would give him exactly that. Distance, clarity, and a severing he would never mistake for a tantrum. The first tab I opened was my banking portal. The familiar dashboard loaded, blue and white and sterile. When the numbers appeared, something inside me clicked into place. My professional training took over. This wasn't emotional anymore. It was procedural. Step 1. Mortgage support. 4 years, 48 payments, every single one on time, like clockwork. I hovered over the automatic transfer, my name listed as the sole payer, and clicked cancel. A small confirmation box popped up. "Are you sure?" I exhaled slowly. "Yes," I whispered into my empty apartment. Step 2. Utilities. I'd been covering half their bills for years. Electricity, water, internet when Harold forgot. Click, click, click. Everything canceled. Step 3. Additional support payments. The emergency fund Marilyn messaged me about once a month. The periodic transfers Evan somehow always needed. The little things that added up to thousands. I stopped them all. Then step 4. Documentation. If Harold wanted a war built on paperwork and formalities, I was fluent in that language. I opened a blank document and titled it simply, "Payments." No drama, no commentary. Just numbers, dates, amounts, descriptions. Clean, neat, factual. The document grew line by line, filling with 4 years of financial sacrifice I'd never once spoken aloud. Looking at it was like staring at an X-ray of a broken bone I never treated. My phone buzzed on the counter. "Evan, you better not be being dramatic right now." I didn't open it. Another buzz. Marilyn. "The mortgage is due tomorrow. Don't make this harder." Delete, delete. They thought I was bluffing. They thought everything would snap back to normal once I calmed down. But I wasn't angry. I wasn't spiraling. I was done. The next morning, I woke earlier than usual. My apartment felt brighter, like someone had scrubbed the air clean. I made coffee, wrapped my hair into a neat ponytail, and sat down at my dining table with my laptop. Out of habit, I logged into their mortgage portal. A small red banner blinked across the top of the screen. "Payment failed. Account past due." My heart didn't race. I didn't panic. Instead, I felt something profound. Relief. It was the first visible crack in the system they had built on my shoulders. By afternoon, the ripple effects widened. Emails flooded my inbox, services tied to my financial support sending automated notices. Payment unsuccessful. Card declined. Account inactive. Every notification felt like a string snapping loose from my spine. Around 5, Evan called. I watched his name light up the screen, glowing with entitlement. I let it ring until it stopped. 10 seconds later, a voicemail. I played the first few words. "This isn't funny." I deleted it without listening further. That night, I sat on my balcony again, watching Denver's lights stretch across the skyline. Cars hummed in the distance. The wind brushed my hair gently across my cheek. For the first time since childhood, I felt something like ownership over my life. Not pride, not victory, agency. I wasn't sabotaging them. I was removing myself from a structure built on my exploitation. And as I breathed in the cold air, a realization settled over me like frost on steel. Harold thought disowning me would weaken me. But he'd forgotten one crucial truth. I was the one holding everything together. And now, I wasn't holding anything, not anymore. 48 hours later, Marilyn called in full panic mode. The phone vibrated so violently it nearly tipped off the counter. I didn't move. I finished pouring my coffee, inhaling the steam as if it could steady me. When I finally answered, I placed the call on speaker. Her voice hit the room like a siren. "Bonnie, what did you do? The mortgage payment bounced. The bank called your father. They said it was rejected. It's due today. Do you understand that? Fix it. Fix it right now." Not a question, not concern, a demand. I took a slow sip. Harold asked me to direct everything through his lawyer, so that's what I'm doing. Silence on the line. Then a sharp inhale. "What lawyer? Don't play games, Bonnie. You're being unreasonable." I ended the call. 10 seconds later, the phone rang again. Then again. Then came a stream of texts, each one a blend of guilt, accusation, and desperation. Evan entered the battlefield next. "Are you out of your mind? You're ruining Dad's life. Get that payment through today." Another text. "You think being dramatic makes you powerful? You're pathetic." For years, those words would have gutted me. Now they felt small. By noon, the calls escalated from frantic to threatening. Marilyn claimed they would take legal action. Evan said I'd be cut off forever. Harold sent nothing, not even a single line. The silence from him was almost louder than their chaos. But later that afternoon, everything shifted. My lawyer called. She'd received a message from Harold's supposed legal representative. A stiffly written email accusing me of financial harassment and demanding I restore all payments immediately. She laughed. "This isn't even a real claim. It's pressure. Empty pressure." "Good," I said, exhaling. "Because I need your help with something else." I told her everything. The years of payments, the video Uncle Robert sent, the way my family used me like a bank account. And then I told her something I'd never voiced aloud. There were always discrepancies in his community fund reports. I think Harold might be mismanaging money, maybe worse. She grew still. Then we start digging. For the next week, every spare moment became a quiet investigation. I worked through my professional notes, cross-checking dates and transactions against the community fund's publicly available filings. The more we compared, the more cracks appeared. Harold wasn't sloppy. He was siphoning money, not small amounts either. Significant, repeated withdrawals disguised under vague descriptions. But the unraveling didn't stop there. One night around 11, my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it. Something told me not to. A soft, trembling voice whispered into my ear. "Bonnie, it's Mia, my cousin." She sounded like she was hiding in a closet. "I saw the video," she said, "and I need to tell you what happened to me." My breath caught. She told me everything. How Harold once cornered her when she was 17. How she screamed. How Marilyn dismissed it as a misunderstanding. how she'd been forced into silence for years. "I'm so sorry," Mia whispered. I didn't know who else to tell. I closed my eyes, the edges of my vision tightening. Harold wasn't just manipulative, wasn't just financially abusive. He was dangerous. 2 days later, the final blow came from an unexpected source. Dana, my mother's best friend, called. Her voice cracked with emotion. "Your mother suffered, Bonnie. She never told you how bad it was because she wanted to shield you. Harold controlled everything. Her money, her choices, her friends. He drained her piece by piece." Something old inside me splintered. This wasn't a dysfunctional family. It was a system built on one man's control. And I wasn't the next victim. I was the one breaking the pattern. The confrontation came on a quiet Thursday evening. The Denver sun was sinking, casting long gold shadows through my apartment window. When someone pounded on my door, 3 heavy knocks, I knew instantly. I opened the door. Harold stood there. His face was gray, sunken, aged by panic. The confident posture he'd always wielded like a weapon was gone. "Bonnie," he rasped. "Please. They're talking about legal action. The fund people are accusing me. There are rumors everywhere. Fix this. You can fix this. You're the auditor. Tell them it was a misunderstanding." His voice cracked on the last word. "You're my daughter," he added, almost begging. I let the silence fill the hallway until he shifted uncomfortably. Then I reached into a folder and handed him a single sheet of paper. His hands trembled as he read. When his eyes hit the list of flagged transactions and the summary of potential misconduct, his breath hitched. "What? What is this?" "A summary," I said, "of what the investigators already know, and what more people will know soon." He looked up, panic flooding his features. "You did this." It wasn't a question. It was blame. "No," I said quietly. "You did." He shook his head, voice rising. "Bonnie, please. I need your help. You owe me." I stepped back, letting the hallway light cut the distance between us. "I don't owe you anything," I said. "And you disowned me, remember?" His face crumpled. "I didn't mean—" "That's the problem," I said. "You never do." I closed the door before he could answer. The latch clicked softly, a gentle, final sound. And behind it, I heard Harold's breath hitch. A single, broken gasp. That was the moment his entire world collapsed. Not because I destroyed anything, but because I finally stopped holding it up. The fallout moved faster than even I expected. Within a week, the Community Fund Board launched an internal review. My lawyer forwarded them the summary of discrepancies, and from there, everything unraveled. Meetings were held, statements were requested, quiet questions turned into open accusations. Harold's name, once spoken with respect, became a warning. Evan tried to defend him online, but his posts only drew attention to the investigation. People questioned motives. Screenshots circulated. His reputation cracked under the weight of his own entitlement. By the end of the month, the house in Glendale, his pride, my burden, was placed under foreclosure review. The payments I'd carried alone, for 4 years, had been the only thing keeping it alive. Without me, it collapsed instantly. Meanwhile, life in Denver shifted in ways I never saw coming. My boss pulled me aside after a major audit and offered me a promotion, saying she'd never seen someone handle personal pressure with such clarity. I walked out of her office with a title that finally reflected the work I'd been doing all along. One evening, standing on my balcony, I looked over the city lights and felt a quiet truth settle in. For the first time, peace wasn't something I had to pay for. In the end, I learned something simple. Family isn't defined by blood, but by how you're treated. Walking away from the people who drain you isn't selfish, it's survival. And setting boundaries isn't cruelty, it's freedom. If you've ever carried more than your share, or been expected to hold everything together alone, you're not wrong for finally putting it down. Our story has come to an end. If you've made it this far, how about subscribing to our channel? It helps us immensely. I've selected 2 other videos for you that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Feel free to click on them. I'll be waiting for you in the next story. See you soon.